There was a tiny college in the western North Carolina mountains that only ran for 24 years in the middle of the 20th century. Now, you might not think anything of that, but this college was so important that it has influenced liberal arts colleges and art departments all over the nation and the world, so much so that people are still talking about it today. There were no grades. There were no tests. There were no degrees. Students completed their study when they decided they had finished. Many students stayed there for years. Now, you may be a student yourself thinking, "That's amazing, where can I sign up?" Or you may be thinking, well, that college obviously was a joke. But consider this. Black Mountain College, with only a faculty of about 30 and just about 1,200 students in its 24 years of existence, had a huge impact on education, thinking, art, music, and literature worldwide. Many of the most famous artists of the 20th century either taught or studied at Black Mountain College. They would go on to revolutionize the art world, shake up the music scene, transform the art of dance, and make a lasting impact on literature. It's important to consider the era that formed Black Mountain College. Our experiment in democracy seemed to have succeeded in the early 20th century, although we were still struggling with racism and segregation. Fascism was growing in Europe, and in the 1930s, the US was going through the Great Depression. In Germany, the Nazis ascended to power in 1933, and they closed the Bauhaus, a revolutionary, world-renowned school of art and design. The clear message was that artists and thinkers were no longer welcome in Germany, and many of them fled to the US. This brain drain from Germany happened to coincide with the vision of John Andrew Rice, a scholar and educator who had found himself at odds with Rollins College in Florida, whose administration required faculty to sign a loyalty pledge. John Rice found this so distasteful, he left Rollins, along with several other faculty, and envisioned a new school, a progressive school, and this institution became a refuge for those fleeing the Nazi crackdown. As a liberal arts college, Black Mountain needed a director of art, and it found this in German expatriate Josef Albers. Albers came from the Bauhaus along with his wife, Anni, and the two of them would create a program that would come to be admired and copied by departments around the nation. This new school would be founded on the principles of philosopher and education reformer John Dewey, under whom Rice had studied. The focus would be on learning through doing, with a strong emphasis on art as a means of expression. Rice, building on Dewey's ideas, envisioned a college with true democratic governance. The college would be owned by the faculty, but there would be no hierarchy. Decisions would be made by a governing board of faculty members with shared and equal authority, and students would also maintain a chair on that board. Black Mountain College officially opened in 1933 and used facilities owned by the YMCA Blue Ridge Assembly of Black Mountain for its first few years. By 1937, the college had acquired almost 700 acres of land around Lake Eden, and in 1941, this site became its campus for the remaining years. Students and faculty members operated a working farm on site. Much of the food was grown and harvested on campus grounds. Students were expected to work the farm, participate in construction projects, and serve in the kitchen. Faculty and students lived together, worked together, and socialized together. After dinner, tables and chairs would be moved in the dining hall to make way for performances, music, and dancing. This gave students unprecedented access to their instructors, and sometimes conversations would range well into the morning hours. John Rice and his colleagues wanted to create an educational experience for students that made them self-realized individuals, active and outspoken members of society. The goal here was not simply to teach students fields of study or trades, but to form thinking individuals who would shape their democracy. At Black Mountain, there was no distinction between life and art. Everyone made art and consumed each other's art. This was woven into the fabric of social connection. And in 1952, John Cage organized what came to be known as the first happening, or early performance art in the United States. This multimedia piece, which later became known as Theater Piece No. 1, was not theater in the traditional sense. Cage himself stood at a lectern and read aloud writings on Zen Buddhism. David Tudor played piano. Robert Rauschenberg displayed artworks and spun Edith Piaf records. Charles Olson and MC Richards read from atop the Poet's Ladder, and Merce Cunningham danced a path around the room and was chased by a dog. Black Mountain College was on the leading edge of desegregation in the early 20th century, although cautiously so. Students had pushed for integration since the college opened, and although it had a lot of support from faculty members, some faculty were hesitant, fearing blowback from the community. In 1944, Alma Stone Williams was admitted to the summer program and became the college's first African-American student. Over the next 3 years, musicians Carol Bryce and Roland Hayes would join the faculty for the summer, and a handful of black students would be admitted full-time. Then, in 1947, Black Mountain College became fully integrated, 7 years before the Supreme Court would declare segregation unconstitutional in its landmark Brown versus the Board of Education case. Despite being on the leading edge of art and progressive education, enrollment to Black Mountain College remained relatively low, and it was closed in 1957 due to lack of funding. Today, the Lake Eden campus is now a Christian camp for boys. But what came out of Black Mountain College? Josef Albers went on to direct the Department of Design at Yale University. Black Mountain College was his model. He was the first living artist to have a solo show at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and is generally considered to be one of the most influential instructors in visual art in the last century. Robert Rauschenberg became one of the most famous artists of the 20th century, his work anticipating the pop art movement and influencing generations of artists to come. Willem and Elaine de Kooning are still regarded as masters of abstract expressionism. Ruth Asawa's work is featured in collections at the Guggenheim and the Whitney in New York. John Cage not only reimagined music composition, but he was also an early innovator in electronic music. Merce Cunningham remained at the forefront of modern dance for 50 years, training other leading dancers like Paul Taylor and Jan van Dyke. Buckminster Fuller would go on to write over 30 books and is still a highly regarded futurist and thinker today. Arthur Penn won 2 Tony Awards directing on Broadway and joined the Hollywood elite by directing such films as Bonnie and Clyde, The Miracle Worker, and Alice's Restaurant. Charles Olson would launch the literary publication The Black Mountain Review, and along with others including Robert Creeley and Joel Oppenheimer would form the Black Mountain Poets. There were many other influential artists who would emerge from Black Mountain, and they would make up the avant-garde of American artistic expression, joining the ranks of famous groups such as the Beat Poets and the New York School. Even Robert De Niro's father, a painter himself, went to Black Mountain. The legacy of Black Mountain College is very much alive. In my next video, we'll explore the Black Mountain College Museum and Arts Center, a private foundation that preserves the legacy of Black Mountain College through exhibits and events. And if you're enjoying learning about the many places, people, and facets of North Carolina, please hit that subscribe button and that like button to help get the word out. Thanks!